Hello everyone, let's create the matte painting of Dragon Island in Photoshop. So let us start. Let's first create the document for our matte painting. So here we have the document. So the document width is 11.6 inches and height is 8.2 inches. And in pixels we get 3508 pixels wide and 2480 pixels in height. And the resolution has to be somewhere around 150, right? And we will also give the name for our document, which is Dragon Island, right? So once our document values are all set, we'll just create our document. So here is our document, and we will remove the background. We don't want any background. We will create a transparent background. So for an island, the first requirement is the sea. We need to place the island on a sea. So let's get the image of sea. So here is the sea image. Let's select the sea and let's drag it into our document. Let's scale it. Right. So once we got the sea, the next step is we'll get the mountains. We will place mountains at the distance. So let's select the image of mountains. So here we have some mountains. Let's select them. We can use the quick selection tool and we will slowly select the mountains. We will only select the mountains that are near the sea. So this much is enough, right? Then let's drag these mountains into our document, right? Let's scale it down. And we will also rename all the layers properly. So first one was sea, and then the next one is the mountain, and we will take one more duplicate of this mountain and we will flip it. We can adjust the mountain properly. Right. So just we have to stretch and adjust the mountains properly. Right. So these mountains are at the distance. So we will also get one more set of mountains. We'll get these mountains from this particular image. So again, let's select the quick selection tool and let's slowly select these mountains. Make sure that we don't select any other unwanted things here. So we only select the mountains. Right. Then we will simply drag these mountains into our island. And one thing we can do here, see, we can just observe the edges. There is a white color fringe over these mountains. We don't want that. So one thing we can do is we will just select the layer thumbnail for these mountains. So we need to simply hold Control in PC or Command in Mac and click on the layer thumbnail, and then we will shrink the selection. To shrink the selection, we need to go to Select menu, and in Select menu we have Modify, and in Modify we have the option Contract. So we will contract the selection by, let's say, 2 pixels. Okay, 2 pixels is a little bit too much. Let's go back, and let's go back to the Select menu again, and let's select Contract, and let's shrink our selection by 1 pixel. This looks better. And now we will inverse the selection. To inverse the selection, we can use Ctrl Shift I in PC or Command Shift I in Mac, and we will simply hit delete. Right. So we can see it's almost gone. Or we will do one more thing. We will just shrink the selection by 1 more pixel. We have to do a bit of trial and error here. Right. Now this looks better. Now we can observe the edges. There are no fringes. Right. Then what we'll do is we will again take a copy of this particular mountain. Just let's take a copy. Let's flip the mountain here. Right. This looks better. And we can also take one more copy here. And we will flip it one more time. Right. This looks better. Right. And then we can merge all these layers. Now this looks like a single mountain. And if we see any unwanted objects at the bottom, we can delete them. So the way to do is we will just use the clone stamp. We can just Alt click or Option click in Mac. Alt click in PC. Just if we see any seam or any unwanted object here, we can just remove it. Right. So this looks better. The next step is, let's now get the sky. Here is the sky. We'll simply drag the sky into our document. And also let's not forget to rename these layers. So we will rename the mountain as front mountain. And again we also have a back mountains. We will just rename them back mountains. Right. Then we will put the sky behind all these mountains. Let's drag the sky layer below the sea, and let's make it big. Right. So this much is done. Now it's time for us to get the island. So we will be creating a dragon island. This is the island. Let's select the quick selection tool, and let's try to select only the island portion. So here we have selected only the island, but also we have selected some unwanted objects at the bottom, so we can delete them or remove them from the selection. So how we can do it is we can hold Alt in PC or Option in Mac, and then we will just draw a selection and just draw the selection around all the unwanted objects. We only want the island portion, right? So here we can also use Shift and add some important portions of the island, right? So here we are able to select the island. Now let's drag the selection into our document, right? Let's flip our island and let's make it a little bit big. So in proportion to the back mountains, our island has to be big. That is very important. This is called the perspective. And also we can select the mountains behind the island and make them a little bit small. So you can see the back mountains are a little bit small. We'll also stretch them a little bit. Right. This looks better. Now the next step is, if we zoom into our island, we can see the edges. We can see some fringes over these edges. We want the edges of this island to be sharp. So we can use the technique that we have just now used, that is to shrink the selection. But instead we will use one more technique, that is we will take a layer above this island layer and we will click this empty layer to this island layer. Then we will use the clone stamp tool and we have to just check the option, that is current and below, because the empty layer has no content. So clone stamp will use the content below the empty layer. Then what we'll do is we will simply just sample the areas of the island and just paste them on the edges. Just we need to hold Alt in PC or Option in Mac and click on the island to copy the area or sample the area. And now let's slowly paint those areas over the edges. So we can see here. The fringes are all gone. So we can check wherever we find the fringes, we will just remove them. Just we need to Alt click or Option click and remove those fringes. So we can check here, a lot of fringes are there. Just Alt click and remove all the fringes on the edges. We need to sample nearby areas. So we are able to perfectly select the island. Now the edges of the island are sharp. We can thoroughly check in case we have missed any of the edges. Right now the island is looking fine. No more fringes. Right. So once we have removed those fringes, now what we'll do is we'll get the image of dragon. So here is the image of a dragon. Let us select the dragon now. We can use the quick selection tool. Here we have the select subject. We only want the front portion of this dragon. So what we can do is we will deselect the back part. We don't need the back portion. Right, so only the front portion is now selected. We can just zoom and check. So make sure that we don't miss any part of the dragon. Right. Now we will take this dragon to our document. Let's scale it and rotate it properly. We need to adjust the island, we need to adjust the dragon statue properly. Right. Now the next thing we'll be doing is we only want some portions of this dragon. We don't want the complete dragon. We need to blend this dragon properly on this mountain. So for that, what we need to do is we will apply a mask, and first we will rename the layer as a dragon statue, and we will apply a mask to this. Now we will select the brush. Make sure that opacity and flow are 100% for the brush, and also make sure that we select soft rounded brush. And let's keep the foreground color as black so that we can erase the portions of this dragon. We don't want this bottom portion, so let's erase it. And we can just lower the flow value, and we can create some nice transition between the mountain and the dragon statue. So we can just see here, so something like this. Right. So now we have adjusted the dragon over the island or the mountain. The next step is we'll also just merge these layers of the island, and we'll rename the layer island, and we will apply a mask to this island. Then we'll erase the bottom portions so that the bottom portion of the island blends properly with the sea. And also there is one more thing we have to do. Island also has a ground. So we will now get the image of ground, and we will put the image below this island. So let's get the image of a ground. So here is the ground. Let's select the ground, and we can give some small amount of feather here, and let's drag the ground and let's place it over here. Let's scale the ground image. Let's rename the layer ground, and we have to put the ground below the island layer. And also let's activate the transform tool and select distort, and let's make the ground a little bit flat. Let's adjust the ground right. Make it perfectly flat. Right. Then we will apply mask to this ground, and we will use a soft rounded brush. We will erase the edges of this ground, and here the flow value is very less. We will increase the flow, and we will erase the edges of this ground. It should not be rectangular, it should be elliptical, something like this. Right, this looks better. And also we can reduce the flow and create a smooth transition between the ground and the sea, something like this. Right. So now we have completed the island. Then the next step is we will try to do something with the back mountains and also the sky. We will turn the sky into an orange sky. So first we will rename the sky layer as sky, and then we will just take an empty layer above the sky layer, and we will select a pure orange color, or let's say a color in between orange and yellow, and we will fill this empty layer with the orange color, something like this. And then we will change the blending mode to, let's say, hard light, and we will also reduce the opacity a little bit. It should not look too orangish, because we should be also able to see the clouds. Right, this much is better. Right, the next step is let's get an image of a rock. We'll be placing that rock at the front of this image. So we will just check for the rock. This is the rock. We will select this rock. So let's select the rock. So we can ignore some portions. We don't have to select it perfectly. Right. So now the rock is selected. We will just drag this rock onto our document, and let's keep it above all the layers. Let's scale it. I think we have missed some parts. Let's go back to the rock image. Here we have missed some portions. We have to select the entire rock, and let's now drag it into our document. Let's scale it. Right, And we will also select our island and also the ground, and we will just keep it to the, let's select the dragon statue also. Let's keep it to the right side, and we'll make it a little bit small so that we can see everything here. Right. Then we'll do something with the back mountains. So we want the back mountains to appear a little bit foggy. So for that, what we can do is we'll select all these mountain layers. We'll select the topmost mountain or the front mountain, and we will just click on this create new fill or adjustment option at the bottom of the layers panel, and we will select the gradient. So here is the gradient fill, and what we'll do is we will just open the gradient, and here we can see some orange color. We don't want orange color, we want pure white color so that it looks more foggy. And we also want the foggy look on top. So we'll just create a white color for this slider, and we'll increase the opacity. So we can see here. Now our scene looks very much foggy. And then we will also change the angle. So I have changed the angle. Right. So the scene looks very much foggy now, but we want the foggy effect only on the back mountains. So for that, what we'll do is we'll select the mask thumbnail for this gradient fill layer, and we will invert the mask. We'll simply use Ctrl I in PC or Command I in Mac. Right. And now what we'll do is we will paint a fog only on some areas. So what we'll do is we will keep white as the foreground color, select the mask thumbnail, and we can just paint the fog over these mountains. So something like this. We don't want the foggy effect all over the image, only in some places we want the foggy look. So something like this. Make sure that the flow value is very low so that the fog doesn't look too intense. Right, this much is okay. Next is we will get the image of a person. We will place the person on this particular rock. So where is the person? So here is the person. We can see the back side of this person. So we will just use the quick selection tool and click on this select subject to select this particular person. Right. We don't have to be too perfect. This much is enough for us. So we will now drag this person, and we will place this person on this particular rock. He is standing on the rock and watching this dragon island. Place him properly, and also we can check the edges of this person. In case we see any fringes, we can delete them, but it's okay, he looks fine. Right. And then the next step we'll be doing is we will also get one more mountain, and this mountain we will be placing in the front. So we have to adjust these mountains or objects in perspective. So whatever object is in front of the image, it should appear big. So let's get one more mountain image. Let's select this particular mountain. So we will just use the quick selection tool and just roughly select this mountain, and we don't have to be perfect, and also we are not going to just put the entire image. We only want one portion of this mountain. Right. So once we have selected, we will now just drag this mountain and keep it over here. Let's make it big and let's flip it. Right. And we can just make it big like this. So something like this. You can just scale it. We only want this much portion of this, so that it does not cover the Dragon Island completely. Right. And we can just check the edges of this particular mountain. There are some small fringes. We can just use the clone stamp and we can get rid of them. We can just use Alt click in PC or Option click in Mac, and we can get rid of them. Right. It's okay. In case we see any disturbance here, we can just delete that. Right. So this much is okay, and we can also do some color matching here. We have brought different objects from different images, but there is some color mismatch here. We can adjust the color. So what we can do is, first let's start with the island. First let's start with the ground. Let's try to select the ground layer. We will match the ground with the sea. So we'll go to image, adjustments, and here we have the option match color. We'll match the ground with the sea. So what we'll do is, in match color dialog, at the bottom we can see the source. From source, let's select the name of our document. The name of our document is Dragon Island, and then we have selected the ground layer, and the ground should match with the sea. So from this layer list, we have to select the sea. So we can see immediately our ground turns blue. It has acquired the color of the sea. So what we'll do is, we will reduce the matching effect. Here we have some options: fade, color intensity, and luminance. If we increase the fade value, the matching effect will come down. We don't want the matching effect to be too much, just slightly. And if we want to increase the color intensity, we can increase. Color intensity will make the ground color dark, and luminance will make the ground bright. So we don't want too much luminance. Let's reduce the luminance. Right. So now we have matched the ground with the sea. We'll do the same things with the island as well. So let's select the island layer, and we'll go to image, adjustments, and we'll select match color. And again we will select the name of our document, which is Dragon Island, and we want our island to match with the, let's say, ground. So we can see immediately our island has acquired the ground color, but we will reduce the matching effect by increasing the fade amount. So this much is better, right? and we can also increase the color intensity if we want a little bit greenish color on the island. Right, this much is okay. We have matched the island, and we'll also match the dragon statue. Let's select the dragon statue. We'll go to image adjustments and match color. We'll match the dragon with the island. So again, let's select the name of our document, which is Dragon Island, and the dragon statue should match with the island. So let's select the island. So we can see immediately there is a change, but we will reduce the matching effect. We don't want the effect to be too much. We can reduce the color intensity so that the dragon looks more grayish. Right, this looks better. And in case we want to reduce the luminance, we can reduce, but let's increase it. We want the dragon statue to be a little bit bright. Right, now we will also match the rock with the sea. So let's select the rock layer. So I think we have not renamed the rock layer. We will rename it as rock. And now we'll go to image adjustments and match color, and then we'll select the name of our document from source, and we will just match the rock with sea. So immediately the rock turns blue. We'll reduce the matching effect by increasing the fade value. So we can keep it to, say, let's say, okay, 60 is okay. And we can also play with these color intensity and also luminance. Right, this much is better. And then we will also match this front mountain. Just now we have placed it. We will rename it as the front. Okay, we can just say front big mountain. Okay, and we'll match it with the sea. We'll just go to image adjustments, match color, and from match color dialog we'll select the name of our document, and we'll match this front big mountain with the sea. Immediately it has turned blue. Let's reduce the matching effect. It should not be too much. Right, this looks better. And we can also slightly increase the color intensity if we want. Right, then the next step is, we don't have to match the back mountains, it's okay. We can do some more interesting things now. So we have to now apply a curves adjustment layer on top of all the layers, and we'll reduce the brightness so we can see the interesting effect here. And we'll do one more thing. We can actually match this person. First let's rename the layer as person, and we'll also match the person with the rock. We'll just go to image adjustments, match color. We'll select the name of our document, and we'll match the person with rock. So we can see here, and we can just slightly increase the fade value. Right, so we have just reduced the brightness of the scene. Then after applying the curves adjustment, we can just rename this curves as low brightness. The next step we will do is, we will just apply a hue and saturation, and we'll do something interesting here. We will first colorize the image. Here we have the option colorize. It will remove the natural colors and it will apply some artificial colors. So we got something like this. So it has removed the natural color completely. We will just try to find an interesting color this looks better, and we will increase the saturation of this color. Right. Now the next step is we will inverse this mask for the hues and saturation. So we'll simply hit Ctrl I in PC or Command I in Mac, and we'll select the brush. We'll select a soft rounded brush and keep the flow value to a very low value. Let's keep it to, let's say, 20% is enough. Right. And now we will increase the size of our brush. Make sure that the color in the foreground is white, and let's just click once. So we can see here we have not fully applied the color, we have just partially applied the color. And we can also change it to black, and we can remove it a little bit. Right. Then we will just apply a color balance, and we can just increase the green value here, so we can see the change. We can also reduce the red value, and we can see the difference here. Right. Then the next step is we will apply one more gradient fill layer on top of all the layers, and we want some foggy effect at the bottom as well. So we will just open the gradient editor from the gradient fill adjustment layer, and we will just give it a white color, so we can see some foggy effect at the bottom. And we can then just click OK, and we will reduce the fogginess. The fogginess currently is appearing too much at the bottom, so we will just select the thumbnail for the gradient fill, and we will select the brush, and we will also select the soft rounded brush. We will reduce the fogginess at the bottom, so we can slightly increase the flow value here, and make sure that black is in the foreground, and we can just remove the foggy effect a little bit. Right. And then one last thing we'll do, that is we'll just apply one more curves adjustment layer, and we can also check the colors here, individual colors. If we want to make it reddish, we can use the red color. Here we can just increase the redness, and we can also reduce the redness to get a cyanish color here, so we can see. And we can also again select the RGB to control the brightness. So we can just lower it, so we can see the effect. Right. And one thing we can do here is we can just select the dragon statue, and make sure that we select the image thumbnail for the dragon statue, and we can check the edges. The edges are a little bit edges are showing some kind of fringe, so we can just control and click on the dragon statue. We can just shrink the selection, contract the selection, and we can just invert it again, and then just hit delete. So now the edges of the dragon are very sharp. Right. And one more thing that we can do here is we can just apply brightness and contrast to this, and we can increase the contrast here. We can also, if we want, we can just slightly reduce the increase the brightness. That's it. And one last thing is we can just select the vibrance, and we can also increase the vibrance here. Something like this. Right. And one thing we will be doing in the end is we can also put a sun. So how we can put a sun? We will just change the blending mode to linear dodge, and we will just select a pure white color, or let's say a pure yellow color, and we can just click here. So we have to use a hard round brush. Okay, it doesn't look nice. We will just use soft round brush here. We have to increase the flow here. So something like this. And then let's increase the size of the brush. And also we will again select the hard round, and we will also just create something like a sun. We'll try a white color, just a white color here. Okay, it doesn't look nice. We can just select a color in between yellow and white, light yellowish color. Right, this looks better. One last thing we'll do is we'll add some extra fog over the mountains or on the sky. This is the last attraction we'll be giving to our matte painting. So we'll just select the layer below the sun layer. We'll rename the layer sun, and we'll select the layer below the sun layer, and we will just use this gradient, and we will open the gradient editor. We will change the color to pure white, and we will also select this yellow slider. We will just change the color to pure white. We'll increase the opacity here, so we can see a lot of foggy effect. And now what we'll be doing is we'll just change the angle here, so we can see a lot of fogginess, and we will invert the mask for this gradient, and then we will reduce the flow amount to, let's say, 30%, and make sure that the foreground color is white. We'll just apply some foggy effect on the sky as well as on the mountains. So there is some foggy effect now. Let's not apply it on the island, so we can just apply it on these mountains as well as on the sky. And if at all there is some foggy look on the island, we can just keep it lightly. We don't want the fogginess too much on the island, and if you want to erase it, make sure that we keep black as the foreground color, and we can erase it. Right, this looks better. So this is the final matte painting of Dragon Island. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Please do like, subscribe, share, and if you have anything to say, do comment. See you again.